Okay, Shalom, we're back, and this is going to be our final view of all the tanks that we have. I wanted to give you a wide view of the many, many tanks here. We're at Latroon's museum here, and you can see a lot of the tanks that were used in all of Israel's wars and used between the wars. And what's interesting is that when you go to American war museums, you see these huge, huge tanks, and that's what they display. Look how big the tank is, right? And you see Russia's military parades and North Korea's military parades. You watch as they bring out these huge, huge tanks, and you imagine, wow, that's intimidating. Now look compared to Israel's, look at this thing, right? Look, just to show you, none of this piece, nothing's missing from this tank, right? This isn't like we're just looking at a half a tank. This is the entire thing. I'm not a tall guy. I'm about 5'6", 5'7", and look at this thing. Look how small this is. My car is bigger than this thing, and I don't have that big of a car. We're not talking about like a minivan. This thing is very, very small. So what do they use this for? What's the idea? Well, in 1973, in the Yom Kippur War, we had something that was tragic. You might have heard the story. This was not one of Israel's stories that we tell with pride, but we tell it with a tale of caution. And we eventually won the war, and eventually it became a happy moment in Israel, but it was very sad at the beginning. Israel was surprised. Its Prime Minister, Golda Meir, wanted to believe her soldiers that told her that their enemies, although they were again on Israel's borders, were not going to attack, as opposed to the reports that came in that said they're about to attack. She believed the ones that said they're not going to attack and sent a lot of soldiers home to pray on Yom Kippur, to daven on Yom Kippur, and they were home when our enemies attacked us, completely surprising us. People had to leave shul, they had to go home, get their uniforms. By the time they got to the front, Israel had already lost valuable ground in the Sinai desert that they had captured in the Six-Day War that we just talked about. They had lost valuable ground in the Golan Heights, and it looked like this could be the end of the state of Israel. These types of vehicles are used to transport soldiers from place to place. Now, why have this and not have a big, comfortable truck? Well, these types of vehicles are called armored carriers. You can hear just how tough they are. This could get hit by bullets, it could get hit by shells, and it's going to last. You can stick 10, 15 guys in here, soldiers on the way to the battlefront, sending them, let's say, from the middle of the country where they were davening on Yom Kippur, and send them quickly up to the Golan Heights. And even though the army sees that the enemies see them coming, and they start firing at them, these things can take a beating. You can see even over here, you can see this particular armored carrier has taken a beating. It's got some weird shapes on it, and the soldiers can sit in here, be covered, be protected. If you come over here, you can see these are the windows that they have that are sealed shut to make sure that any type of enemy fire can't penetrate. And you might look at this and say, wow, it's so crazy. It has, you can see tracks here that so it could go over ground that doesn't have roads built on it, and it's all terrain. But this gets the soldiers to the front as fast as possible and as safe as possible. Now, what's really interesting, if you come over here, pardon our garbage can here because we're at a museum and they don't want there to be a mess. But if you come over here, this is an armored carrier. Now, a lot of times, right, this is another small armored carrier. A lot of times, soldiers, enemy soldiers, will see this and they'll come up to it, and they will attach explosives to it and try to blow it up. So how do the soldiers protect themselves from, if they're sitting inside, they don't want to expose themselves and come out, but if an enemy soldiers come up to this thing and they just attach explosives and blow it up, so how do they protect themselves? The answer is this thing over here. What this is a scary piece of I'm sure you're looking at it and saying, well, what kind of a gun is this? This is actually not a gun. This is a flamethrower. Now imagine if you're an enemy and you come up and you're running up and you're trying to find it, and all of a sudden, and you get set on fire, and all the explosives that you're carrying blows up. This thing protected the soldiers from inside. It's a part of Israeli ingenuity. In the end of the day, we won the Yom Kippur War because of God's help and because of machines like this. You can actually see there's bullet holes in these machines, but it didn't go through. The Yom Kippur War was a lesson for us that we should never get too arrogant and never think that for sure we're going to win, that we always need Hashem's help and we always need to train and we always need good machinery like this armored carrier.